Good afternoon. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much for your presence this afternoon at Luthuli House. We are here to communicate the outcomes of the recent annual Lekgotla of the African National Congress, and the Secretary General will read out the conclusions of the Lekgotla. The SG is not alone. We are not alone today. We are joined by some of our National Executive Committee members who have certain responsibilities both within the organization as well as our deployees in government. I'd like to introduce them before I hand over to the Secretary General. And I will start to my right, Comrade Mamuluku Kubai, as you know, deployed in the security cluster, justice and constitutional development. She's also the chair of the Economic Transformation Subcommittee of the National Executive Committee. To my left, well known to you as well, Comrade Phoebe Potgieter, who heads up, National Executive Committee member who heads up policy research, monitoring and evaluation in the ANC. Next to her is Comrade Senzo Mchunu, deployed as a Minister of Police, also a member of the National Working Committee. Next to him is Comrade Dr. Dixon Masemula, who is deployed in government as Deputy Minister at Lekgotla. And next to Comrade Dixon, last but not least, Comrade David Makura, Principal at the War Tambo School of Leadership, a member of the NEC, as well as Head of Political Education in the ANC. These comrades are going to also interact with members of the media supporting the Secretary General. With that said, over to you, Comrade SG.
Thank you very much, Mahlengi. Good afternoon to members, ladies and gentlemen of the media this afternoon, and fellow colleagues, members of the National Executive Committee, among other serving ministers in our government. We are joined by Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who in our government is deployed as a Minister of Health, but also a member of the National Executive Committee. Given the nature of our National Executive Committee, Lekgotla, we thought that as much as you have given us an opportunity and we have given you feedback in relation to matters that we're dealing with, we thought that it is important from the side of the ANC that you interact with some of our deployees in relation to areas of importance, in their areas of deployment, but also informed by the decisions of the Lekgotla as we move forward. Decisions of the Lekgotla are informed by the execution of the ANC manifesto, that of the last election, but also they are reinforced by the January 8 statement with very clear tasks for this year in terms of what we need to do in the renewal project in terms of our theme for the year 2025. So these comrades here will field questions, but you are free to ask any other question that you would like to ask, and we think that it is of importance and relevance that you deal directly with some of our deployees and members of the NEC in their areas of deployment. The African National Congress emerges from this past weekend, National Lekgotla, as a united, disciplined and forward-looking organization, resolutely focused on responding to the challenges facing the people of South Africa. This National Executive Committee, Lekgotla, which brought together ANC, South African Communist Party, COSATU and SANCO leaders, including cadres and activists of the mass democratic movement, reaffirmed our movement's commitment to its historic mission, advancing the aspirations of the people and realizing the promise of a democratic, just and inclusive South Africa. The deliberations were robust, reflective and thoughtful, drawing on critical lessons from the past while charting a course for the future. The ANC is a resilient organization, firmly rooted in the understanding that our struggle for a better South Africa is a work in progress, and we are resolute in our efforts to address the economic, social and political challenges we face. The Lekgotla endorsed a series of specific resolutions, each one rooted in the lived experiences of our people and designed to address the most pressing issues of the day. We are determined to ensure that the ANC remains a responsive, people-centered movement that is in touch with the realities of South Africans on the ground. The Lekgotla highlighted the importance of unity and cohesion, for we understand that only a united ANC and its alliance partners will be able to effectively implement the resolutions we have adopted. A cohesive ANC, firmly grounded in the values and principles of the Freedom Charter, will be the driving force behind the transformation that our country so desperately needs. The ANC has entered a critical phase of renewal, one that is focused on revitalizing the organization and ensuring that it remains rooted in the people's struggles and aspirations. Central to this renewal is a commitment to rebuilding the ANC as a united, ethical and disciplined organization, capable of meeting the challenges of our time. The Lekgotla highlighted several key resolutions aimed at strengthening the movement, with a focus on expanding membership, deepening political education, and ensuring that the ANC remains a home for all South Africans, especially the working class, poor and marginalized. A key decision during the Lekgotla was the emphasis on raising the quality of ANC leadership and membership, expanding our presence, especially among the youth, professionals and workers, who remain vital to the movement's future. The ANC has committed to campaigns to recruit and retain members who are committed to the vision, mission and values of the movement. This will not only ensure that the ANC continues to have a broad base of support, but also that it remains a dynamic organization that can effectively respond to the changing needs and concerns of the people. The ANC will invest in campaigns that attract new members and provide platforms for dialogue, debate, and unity within the movement. Political education remains a central pillar of ANC renewal. The Lekgotla resolved to place renewed emphasis on the ongoing education and ideological development of all members. The ANC recognizes that a strong, ideologically grounded movement is essential for navigating the complexities of the modern political and social landscape. Therefore, the ANC will prioritize political education that engages with the contemporary issues affecting South Africans, including economic transformation, social justice, and governance. The ANC will also strengthen the development of cadres who are well versed in the ANC's history, principles, and mission, ensuring that all members are equipped to defend and advance the movement's goals. This commitment to ideological clarity will ensure that the ANC remains a relevant force for transformation in South African politics, unafraid to confront difficult questions and offer solutions that are in the best interest of the people. ANC renewal is about more than just expanding membership or engaging in political education. It is about creating an organization that is intellectually rigorous, accountable, and ready to confront the challenges of today with the same courage and vision that guided the movement's founders. Through these efforts, the ANC will continue to be the leader of society, advocating for the transformation of South Africa into a just, democratic, and prosperous society for all. With regard to commitment to energy security and infrastructure development, one of the key resolutions from this Lekgotla is the urgent need to accelerate energy security, starting with the stabilization of Eskom. We welcome the work achieved thus far to stabilize energy availability with over 300 days of uninterrupted supply of electricity. We once more thank the team of patriotic South Africans working at Eskom for their dedication in resolving this issue under the leadership of the Minister of Energy and Electricity. The ANC has committed to a bold plan to address the energy availability, including expediting the rollout of renewable energy as part of a just energy transition. Eskom's challenges are being resolved, and it will contribute to economic recovery, industrialization, and job creation. We welcome the work being done with local government and Eskom to resolve the challenges of debt and load reductions. In addition to energy security, the Lekgotla stressed the importance of addressing infrastructure backlogs in critical areas such as water, sanitation and transportation, roads and rail. We resolved to prioritize investments in these sectors, particularly in rural and underserved communities, where many people still lack access to basic services. A dedicated task team in government will oversee the development and maintenance of water resource systems to ensure that all communities have access to clean and potable water. The existence of water tank mafias, illegal connections, and vandalizing of infrastructure must be tackled without any reservations. This will also include tackling the inefficiencies and corruption that often delay service delivery. The ANC understands that infrastructure is a vital pillar of economic growth, and we are committed to ensuring that all South Africans, regardless of where they live, have access to the services they need. On economic transformation and fighting unemployment, economic transformation remains a key focus area of the ANC Lekgotla. Lekgotla deliberations centered around the issues of consolidating the mass employment programs, financial sector transformation, the digital economy, and the new industrial policy approach. We have a range of public employment programs, for instance, EPWP, CWP, youth service, etc. But these are disjointed and not making the full impact required, given the unemployment crisis we face. The Lekgotla therefore received a report on the review of all these programs, with a view to consolidating to an overall nationwide and multi-sectoral mass employment program that has scale and impact. The Lekgotla reaffirmed our commitment to an inclusive economy where economic opportunities are accessible to all, particularly the youth, women, and rural communities, who have historically been excluded from meaningful economic participation. The ANC is committed to creating an economy that works for all citizens, with a focus on job creation and industrialization in key sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, construction, mineral beneficiation, digital economy, and the green economy. We are also focusing on reducing youth unemployment by introducing targeted skills development programs, ensuring that young people are equipped with the skills needed to thrive in a rapidly changing global economy. Young people have an advantage in the digital age, and we will ensure that our education and skills provide them with the skills for the digital economy, as well as continue to reduce the cost of data and bridging the digital divide. Our economic vision also includes supporting small, medium, and macro enterprises, SMMEs. The ANC understands that these businesses are the backbone of the economy, and we are committed to creating an enabling environment for them to thrive. Through targeted support, including access to finance, training, and markets, we will empower SMMEs to create jobs and contribute to South Africa's economic growth. The resolution to focus on economic empowerment, particularly for women and youth, will create a fairer and more equitable economy for all South Africans. A number of laws to facilitate SME development, such as the National Small Enterprise Amendment Act and the Public Procurement Act, have been enacted. And there is a strengthened legal framework to advance SMMEs, cooperatives, and the township and village economy. Lekgotla also welcomed the ascending into law of the Expropriation Act, which will be utilized to ensure security of tenure, accelerate land claims along with the now full-time land claims court, and speeding up land redistribution for agriculture and housing. Revitalizing public transport and PRASA, rebuilding rail networks and logistics. A major focus of the Lekgotla was the urgent need to revitalize South Africa's public transport systems, particularly the rail network. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, is a key player in ensuring affordable, reliable, and efficient public transport, especially for working-class South Africans who rely on trains to get to work. The ANC acknowledges the deep challenges the PRASA faces, including infrastructure decay, financial mismanagement, and security concerns that have hampered its service delivery. In response, the Lekgotla adopted the resolution to rebuild South Africa's rail network with a clear focus on modernizing rail infrastructure, improving operational efficiency, enhancing the security of communities. We have resolved to prioritize significant investments into PRASA and other key public transport projects, particularly the rehabilitation of rail infrastructure across the country. This includes improving station facilities and enhancing security measures to ensure the safety of passengers. Furthermore, work must be done to engage with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that the rail network can integrate effectively into the broader logistics and transportation framework of South Africa, enhancing connectivity between rural and urban areas, improving the overall functioning of the economy. A lot of work has been covered in relation to PRASA, and that work must continue. Modernization of the infrastructure in PRASA and revitalizing the rail network that was affected before and after COVID-19, the upgrading of security. We recognize that major corridors in the country have been revitalized and opened, and the major corridor in the Western Cape, in particular in Cape Town, the main corridor there in the Central Line, will be opened to all the citizens there, which have been closed for some time. That work must continue and be accelerated. The ANC's broader approach to transport reform includes addressing the inefficiencies in the logistics sector. We recognize that an efficient and well-integrated logistics system is crucial for economic growth, reducing transportation costs for businesses and improving competitiveness in both local and global markets. The Lekgotla emphasized the need for government to work with private sector partners to address key bottlenecks in South Africa's transport and logistics networks, ensuring that goods are moved efficiently, reliably, and at a reduced cost. Government have adopted the rail policy, which empowers government and the private sector to work together to accelerate the revitalization of the logistics network, particularly with regard to rail, and taking further in terms of implementation the policy of ANC of moving from road to rail in order to bring about efficiency in terms of the rail network and logistics in the country. Strengthening local government for better services and delivery, the Lekgotla recognized the critical role that local government plays in the lives of South Africans. The effectiveness of municipalities in delivering services such as water, sanitation, and housing is fundamental to improving the quality of life for all citizens. However, many municipalities are struggling with inefficiency, corruption, and a lack of capacity. In response, the ANC has adopted a series of resolutions aimed at strengthening local government and improving service delivery. Our local government team will strengthen to work with municipalities to address service delivery backlogs and ensure that citizens in all areas, especially rural and underserved regions, receive the services they need. This will include improving the governance and management of municipalities, ensuring that officials are held accountable for service delivery failures, and making sure that the resources are used efficiently. The ANC is committed to increasing the capacity of municipalities through the district development model to deliver quality services and ensuring that municipalities have the necessary resources, systems, and personnel in place to function effectively. The ANC Lekgotla also resolved to invest in the political and administrative leadership at the local government level. By focusing on building the leadership capacity of local government officials, will ensure that the municipalities are better equipped to address the needs of their communities. Stronger leadership and effective governance at local government will improve service delivery and contribute to the overall goal of creating a better South Africa for all. Lekgotla also welcomes the process of review of the local architecture and the funding model. An example in this instance is our interventions and what government has done in eThekwini municipality. The ANC deployed one of its best cadres in Comrade Cyril Lekgotla, a former member of the National Assembly, a member of the National Executive Committee, to stabilize eThekwini. And you can see for yourselves, you had wonderful holidays in Durban this past December because of the efforts and the focused leadership of Cyril Lekgotla, working with the collective in eThekwini. This is the model we seek to employ across our municipalities, to intervene and, if necessary, bring outside deployment to ensure effectiveness of the municipalities going forward in the different provinces. Investing in people, education, health, and research development. Investing in the education, health, and well-being of our people, alongside the research and development, remains central to the ANC's vision for national development and economic growth. The ANC is committed to ensuring that every South African has access to quality education and health care, and that our research and development efforts drive innovation and sustainable progress. We reaffirm our commitment to the National Development Plan target of gross expenditure in research and development reaching 1.1% of GDP. with contribution from state-owned enterprises, the public sector, and private entities. This focus on research and development will be vital for building a competitive, knowledge-driven economy that can create sustainable jobs and respond to the complex challenges we face. In line with the ANC manifesto, we will prioritize early childhood development as a foundation for lifelong learning. The ANC believes that investing in ECD is one of the most effective ways to break the cycle of poverty and ensure that every child has the opportunity to succeed. We will also continue to focus on improving the quality of learning and teaching in public schools, with an emphasis on expanding bilingual education in mother tongues to ensure better outcomes for learners across the country. Furthermore, the ANC remains dedicated to improving schools' infrastructure, especially in rural and under-resourced areas, to ensure that every student has access to a safe, conducive learning environment. These are fundamental building blocks for producing skilled, capable citizens who can contribute to the growth and prosperity of our nation. The post-school education and training sector will be a key driver of our human capital development agenda. The ANC is committed to expanding opportunities for post-school education as outlined in the latest National Skills Plan 2024. To this end, we will accelerate the expansion of technical and vocational education and training, TVET institutions, to meet the NDP target of 2.5 million places. We will ensure that the curriculum offerings at these institutions align with the needs of the economy, focusing on sectors that can drive growth, such as renewable energy, agriculture, and information technology. The ANC also acknowledges the need to address critical issues such as the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS funding, the availability of student accommodation, and the challenge of graduate unemployment, particularly in the health sector. These issues will be tackled head-on to ensure that more young people, especially those who are disadvantaged from disadvantaged backgrounds, can access higher education and enter the workforce with the skills they need. With the skills they need that provides universal access to quality care for all South Africans. This year, we will focus on improving public health infrastructure, tackling HIV and TB, and addressing the challenges within the healthcare workforce. Of particular concern is the alarming increase in HIV infections among young people, particularly adolescent girls, and the troubling rise in teenage pregnancies. The ANC has resolved to prioritize education campaigns that promote safe sexual practices and health literacy, alongside providing better access to sexual and reproductive health services. We'll ensure that interventions are designed to empower young people to make informed choices, and will work with communities to combat the social and economic factors that contribute to these issues. The Basic Education Laws Amendment, BELA Act, which seeks to provide a more inclusive, fair, and accountable system, was also highlighted during the Lekgotla as key tool for advancing educational transformation. The BELA Act aims to strengthen governance in schools, promote inclusivity for learners with disabilities, and ensure that every child's right to quality education is upheld. The ANC will continue to push for the full implementation of this Act, ensuring that it achieves its intended outcomes. The ANC reaffirms that investment in people is the cornerstone of the nation's future and prosperity. By prioritizing quality education, accessible health care, and a robust research and development framework, we will build a society where every citizen can realize their full potential. Our commitment to these goals is unwavering, and we will work tirelessly to ensure that the youth, women, and all South Africans benefit from these transformative investments. The ANC extends its condolences to the families of the South African National Defence Force soldiers who tragically lost their lives in the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of the United Nations mission deployed in the Eastern DRC. These brave men and women paid the ultimate price in their service to peace and security on the African continent. The ANC salutes their courage, dedication, and sacrifice in the fight for peace and stability. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families during this difficult time, and we wish a swift recovery to those injured in the attack. As a nation, we stand together in support of the SANDF and the families who have lost loved ones in this incident. In line with the United Nations and the African Union resolutions and protocols on peacekeeping, we call on the United Nations Security Council to act on the attacks against UN peacekeepers and the violation of the fundamental principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity enshrined in the UN Charter. To this end, we have been made aware that the President of the country have been engaged with different presidents in the region to discuss, among others, ceasefire and also the Troika meeting that must take place before end of the week. And to this extent, the Ministry of Defense and the Minister tomorrow will brief the nation in terms of the details of what happened, that we lost about 13 soldiers in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We are aware that there's been sweeping statements in the public domain and some very much uninformed. And in this instance, it is important that government must deal with this matter. We act with utmost sensitivity on this issue because it is only the Defense Force that must lead in informing the families of the deceased in this regard. And we await a full briefing on the details in relation to what happened in the DRC, and that our government must do everything in their power to ensure the support and the safety of our soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo, of which this is the mission that our President is leading. And at the right time, the President will take the nation into confidence about what happened in the DRC. Our soldiers in the DRC are there for a peacekeeping mission. They are not acting alone. They are acting with others within the realm of the United Nations and SADC. We have done that in many other countries in this particular instance. And there are military protocols when it comes to armaments that guide nations that lead peacekeeping missions in this regard. So sweeping statements that our soldiers are unarmed and all of that, we defer to government to answer in this regard. And we have been assured by the minister that this will happen tomorrow. The Minister of Defense will brief the nation, and I think for all the questions that you've got, they will be directed to the ministry and the high command of our military to clarify, not just civilians, who just make sweeping statements in the public domain without first being clarified from the horse's mouth about what is happening out there. So it's better to comment whilst being informed, not that people don't have information on their own right, given the era of technology and social media and all of that. But let's do that with the right people and be informed about what is happening out there. We are very much, as the ANC, also concerned about the situation and the safety of the peace keepers as well as our soldiers in the DRC. In terms of the fight against crime, corruption and GBV, the Lekgotla noted that the South African peace and stability environment is facing a challenging period characterized by the threats of crime, terrorism and illegal migration, worsened by the scourge of corruption and inefficiencies across government departments and state-owned agencies. The scourge of gender-based violence and femicide continues to be persistent and stubborn in the South African landscape. We then resolved in terms of reform and integration and modernize the criminal justice system, that we need to capacitate all role players within criminal justice value chain through human resources and system integration. In terms of border management, we need to invest in technology and modernize border management work through introduction of biometric systems, including electronic traveler authorization. We need to secure the cyberspace and invest in the development of key legislative platforms, institutional establishment, and capacity building in partnership with private sector role players. In terms of increased safety in the communities, particularly for women and children, we need to robustly implement the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy across all communities and develop an accountability metrics across all clusters. In terms of combating priority offenses such as economic, commercial, and organized crime and corruption, we said we need to effectively synchronize investigative and prosecutorial efforts in addressing all priority offenses and ensure protection of whistleblowers. On international relations and solidarity, as South Africa continues to solidify its role as global leader, the ANC affirms its role and commitment to the country's G20 presidency. The G20 platform provides South Africa with an unparalleled opportunity to advocate for the interest of the global South, particularly in addressing issues such as climate change, sustainable development, and equitable global economic governance. South Africa will use its G20 presidency to advance initiatives that promote multilateralism, global cooperation, and inclusive economic growth, particularly in the areas of financing for development and poverty eradication. The ANC remains steadfast in its support for BRICS, which continues to be a critical pillar of South Africa's foreign policy. BRICS provides an important platform for emerging economies to reshape global governance systems in ways that reflect the realities of multipolar world. The ANC will continue to work within BRICS to promote a fairer global order where the voices of the global South are heard and respected. Our continued partnership with BRICS nations will be a driving force in advocating for the reform of international institutions like the United Nations Security Council and the International Monetary Fund, ensuring that these bodies better reflect the interests of developing nations. Looking ahead, the ANC will further engage in initiatives that strengthen South Africa's role in international affairs. This includes hosting the Liberation Movement Summit in 2025 and commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Bandung Conference. We remain committed to advancing South-to-South cooperation, strengthening Africa's presence on the global stage, and building alliances that support peace, prosperity, and shared development. South Africa's strategic positioning within the G20 and BRICS will play a crucial role in shaping the future of global politics and economics. On the battle of ideas, ensuring transformation agenda for all South Africans. The ANC's battle of ideas is about ensuring that the movement's transformative agenda is understood by society and embraced by all sectors, from the poor and the working class to the youth and the middle class. At the core of this battle is the need for the ANC to be a movement that speaks to the aspirations of all South Africans, particularly those who have historically been marginalized. The Lekgotla emphasized that the ANC must clearly articulate how its policies and actions will uplift all South Africans and how each section of society, including the youth, workers, and the middle class, can see their dreams and aspirations reflected in the ANC's work. A central focus of the battle of ideas is ensuring that the poor, the youth, and the working class are actively engaged in the ANC's vision for economic transformation. So the ANC is about transformation. Even in the GNU, the ANC is about transformation. The ANC is not about rubber stamping the past. It's about changing the past. And that did not end with our ascendancy to political power in 1994. That simply enabled us and give us opportunities to have access over state levers of power to advance the agenda of transformation. So we are not apologetic about people's interest. Because when we talk revolution and many other things, people tend to be confused. But essentially, a revolution is about people's interest, which is about what the ANC is advancing. What are those people's interests? Underdevelopment, poverty, and unemployment. And for us to advance these people's interest, we need to transform. And transformation is about legislation. Transformation is about intervening strategically in many ways to ensure that we realize what should and will be in the people's interest. And that is what is important. Mutsualedi is here. I'm sure you'll ask him about NHI. He will clarify you. That is people's interest. And Makwingwana is here. You'll ask him about crime. It's about people's interest. Mamluko, of course, you'll ask her about the economy, but also she's in the justice cluster and all of that. You'll ask her about all of these things which are in the people's interest. So to ask the question of transformation and transformation is non-negotiable. The Lekgotla resolved that the ANC will work towards ensuring that the media serves as a platform for factual, evidence-based reporting that reflects the true progress being made in society. It means we've got to engage in the battle of ideas. And so that battle of ideas is not amorphous. And it doesn't mean that we share the same perspective with the fourth estate in our country. And it is out of robust engagement and understanding where we come from that you'll understand where the ANC is going. So that is why we emphasize the point that the ANC will speak for itself. You can have your sources, it's fine, but the ANC will speak for itself when it comes to people's interest and national interest, what we are doing for the people and how we are advancing the cause. And we seek to build a relationship with the media and broadly society in terms of the national debate to enable ourselves a positioning in which we can be understood where we come from. On a range of issues. Today we're talking about expropriation of land we believe some don't understand us. And that is why we'll be talking even with our partners in the GNU, so that they understand us, where we come from as the ANC on these matters. It's not just matters of process, that somebody did not understand the process and all of that. It's about fundamentally, to us, transformation. But over and above that, that transformation is not swart khafar. It's not a danger to anybody. It's about this principle of inclusivity we're talking about when we talk about people's interest in terms of advancing transformation in South Africa. The process must include and reignite hope among citizens of this engagement. Among the areas that should be discussed, we believe, is the economy and jobs, poverty, governance, crime, nation building, advancing constitutional rights, participatory democracy, and the land reform. The ANC will work with the Alliance MDM and progressive civil society to participate in a meaningful and a coherent way, building consensus on a whole range of issues in terms of the national dialogue. On the 70th of the Freedom Charter, finally, the Lekgotla reflected on the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, a seminal moment in our history that serves as a reminder of the vision of the free, non-racial, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. This milestone provides us with an opportunity to reflect on our progress, recommit to the ideals set out by the people in 1955, and galvanize efforts towards realizing these goals. As we look to the future, the ANC remains resolute in its commitment to building a South Africa that belongs to all, rooted in equality and human dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. At this point, I will turn to you, colleagues, for questions. Okay, I'm going to start this side. I see Zianda, followed by Sunday World, and followed by SABC. As well as yourself, my sister. Let me take those 4 hands as part of the first round.
Thank you very much. It's Zianda from Newsroom Africa. Thank you very much to the Secretary General for confirming the briefing by the Defence Minister tomorrow, but I want to find out from the ANC whether or not you're satisfied with how long it's taken your deployees in the government to actually take the nation into its confidence, given the fact that you yourself have acknowledged that in that absence there's a lot of miscommunication and a false understanding of the real situation. It's quite a dire situation at hand. And then today, the DA held a briefing, especially, and they've expressed their dissatisfaction with how the ANC has handled the assenting of the Expropriation Act into law. And they've basically made another threat to say that, you know, it's not impossible for them to leave the GNU. So how much can you really afford to have the DA leaving the GNU from the perspective of being able to pass budgets, for an example?
Thank you. Sunday Well.
Thanks. My name is Mohan. I work for the Sunday World. It's very hot here. Anyway, I like also the tie by the premier there. It's nice since he became principal. He dresses up like a real principal, not just a joke. Ice-breaking.
Well received.
As you, with regards to the situation in the Eastern DRC, I hear you about peacekeeping mission, blah, blah, blah. What interests of ours as South Africa are our soldiers representing there? Just leave the peacekeeping, but interests that are white ball. Is that what we're likely to see, where now it's no longer a case where if you're an NEC member, your best shot is being a minister? Are we likely to see it transcending into as the lowest municipalities? And then, and then the other thing that I noted with concern from your statement, in fact, generally in the ANC lexicon these days after this meeting, you barely speak about the SOEs in the broader scheme of things. Yes, we touch here, Brasa, here, electricity, but it's like the SOEs debate in the ANC is being lost. Have the question being, have you lost confidence completely in SOEs in favor of privatization? What is your situation?
Thank you very much. SABC.
Samukele myself from the SABC. Mr. Mbalula, and to the rest of the panel, the ANC leaders. Your South Africa's ambassador to the UN, Marjorie Joini, basically in the UN Security Council this afternoon, spoke about Rwanda's role in the conflict in the Great Lakes region, particularly noting and saying that Rwanda is supporting M23. What is the ANC's view and posture with regards to the role of Rwanda, and in particular Paul Kagame, in that conflict in the Great Lakes region? Do you share the views of South Africa's UN representative in the Security Council currently this afternoon, echoing those sentiments that Rwanda is funding M23? Then, following up on Mawandi's question, successive South African presidents have been involved in the peacekeeping mission negotiations in the Great Lakes region, particularly from Mbeki, Zuma, Kgalema, Cyril Ramaphosa at this point in time. What is really South Africa's interest in that particular region, noting the number of South African business people who have business interests in that country, and some of them have that particular lineage to the political elites of the ruling party? Then, to Mr. Sanzo Mtu, in your capacity as the Minister of Police, crime intelligence is a mess. You issued out a letter holding and freezing all posts within crime intelligence. How far are you within that process of sorting out the problems that are faced with crime intelligence, and reports that crime intelligence is the one that funded the murder of the former ANC Youth League Secretary General Cindy Somakaka? On Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi, there have been reports on him. What is your current relationship with the Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi? Do you believe in the allegations, or what is the standpoint on the allegations that are currently made against Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi in the province of KwaZulu-Natal? And then lastly, the relationship with Fanele Samola, the current police commissioner, is he most likely to finish his tenure in that position, or are you looking elsewhere at replacing the national commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move the side.
Thank you very much. It's Gatel Sohoto from Kaya News. Secretary General, just on the new Trump administration outlining a pausing or a halting of all foreign aid, this including critical health programs such as PEPFAR. The suspension affects our HIV treatment and the prevention education efforts worldwide. Just our response as did the Lekgotla discuss this, that the US-funded HIV services, how does it affect us, and are we concerned with that?
Thank you very much. I will take just one question, and then we will have a second round. Go ahead, SABC.
What are the key inputs the ANC is going to make into the cabinet report tomorrow?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a number of questions on WhatsApp, but at this point I'd like to start with these ones. The first question that related to the situation in the DRC, there was more than one question of that nature. I will, on this one, either ask Comrade Kensani to reflect. The SG will reflect in his closing remarks as part of the response. I'm going to ask you, Comrade Kensani, to attend to that, and on matters that have to do with local government and the changes that are anticipated in local government, and together with the Tegwini as a model, questions along those lines, and including our deployment approach. Comrade Dixon Masimula, if you could take that particular question. And then there is a matter of the Expropriation Act. Any of the two, Comrade or David, could attend to that, related to the narrative that is being advanced by the Democratic Alliance. And then there's a question about SOEs. The chair of the ETC would respond to that. And then the SABC question on our view regarding Rwanda, I think it falls into the same basket, Comrade Kinsani, about our view on Rwanda in relation to the comments made by our ambassador. Similarly, what are the South African interests in that region, in the Great Lakes? And last but not least, Comrade Senzo will then deal with all matters related to crime.
And there's AIDS in toilet.
Yes.
Impact of the 90 days.
Yes, in terms of the PEPFAR and all of the implications on the aid on stance that has been taken by the U.S. administration. Comrade Mutsaledi will do that. He will be the last person. The SG will then comment after that.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mahleng. Good afternoon, comrades. I think the first one, let me start with the issue around SOEs, the ETC matters, then come to the security. I'm into clusters now. The first one around the SOEs, we haven't stopped talking about SOEs, and there's no decision by the NC to privatize any of our SOEs. What we have tended to do, because we always have focused attention, so there is work that we are doing across, but what we have done is to go into zooming into those SOEs that we need to do work on. Like we've done previously, we've identified a problem in terms of electricity, then we'll look at the institutions around electricity. So Lekgotla was avoiding to be everywhere and having every resolution. So conference resolution stands. Now, when you go to Lekgotla, you do progress report on those areas. And that's why you'd find that as we look at progress report, we zoom into the areas where needs intervention, monitor progress and pronounce on those. Not that we have dumped the other areas. So that's the first thing around how we work and how we process in terms of our areas of work. And we have not lost any confidence in any of our state entities. Actually, we believe that currently there's quite a lot of work and progress that is being done in recovering our state-owned entities. Coming to the issue of the DRC matter, firstly, if you look at the mission, it's a UN mission. So South Africa has joined UN mission, peacekeeping mission. One, in terms of funding mechanism, you'd understand that when you have a UN mission, and I see quite a lot of people publicly, they talk about funding and all that, it's done as part of a package of the UN mission. So UN will have a resolution to say we'll send a mission, peacekeeping mission, into this country, and when they do that, that's why they will do the whole package of their support, of their, even their stipend and all those things. That's why they end differently even when they go there. So a mission sent by South Africa on its own and a mission sent under UN has different categories. So this one is particularly that. You'd understand that South Africa was part of or led in terms of the discussion of peace in terms of DRC. At the time when President Kabila took over, the negotiations were in Gauteng. So following that, as part of sustainability of ensuring that peacekeeping mission continues, that has been the issue. The unfortunate part is that peace has not been fulfilled or has not been realized over time, and the issues around interventions, that's why the mission remain, peacekeeping mission remain. Because we have agreed and we are approached by UN to join the mission, you don't just pull out as South Africa. So you continue to fall in. So the conversation will be with all the other countries that have sent missions or sent their soldiers at the DRC as part of the conversation led by the UN. In relation to our representative, I think the President and President Kagame spoke. You would have seen a communique from the President saying that they have conversed. I don't think we haven't received as the ANC a communique that says from government point of view, we do not have good relations because Rwanda is part of that. The conversation between all the heads of states as it's communicated currently is that there must be ceasefire. And it will be verified with government and president when he addresses, and Minister Lamula can clarify that. But from where we are sitting, we do not have information that says this is what is happening in Rwanda, and therefore this is what Rwanda has done. It will have to be official from government, but also UN will be leading in that regard if such happens. It will not be South Africa because it's a mission that is led by On the business interest, let me just clarify. One of the issues that we do, you'd understand that we go to all countries and participate in trade. And that's why South Africa and the entire continent had agreed on African free trade. So you cannot say that in this country, business are not there. And I think Samkelo, when he speaks about people who are aligned, he would have to share SG with you. Who are those? Our understanding as the ANC is that when we go to, for example, state visits, when we go to business engagements with countries, we go there on the basis of opening opportunities for South African business into those countries. And it's for everybody. So the business delegation, and it's not only on the continent, it's even in Asia. As we went to China with the TICAD, we would have taken business and business engagement there with business companies, South African companies going to China to look for business opportunities. Similarly, when other countries come to the continent and come to us, they will come with their business people, companies to look for opportunities. So where we are sitting as ANC, our understanding is that those who are doing business in DRC are doing it like any other country in terms of business opportunities. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi, and a very good afternoon to members of the media. With regard to matters relating to local government in this country, the African National Congress places a very huge premium on matters of local government precisely because of its centrality and importance with regard to the responses to the socio-economic conditions of our people in the country, given the need for provision of basic services, the need to contribute towards the overall national development plan, which obviously all those processes happens at the local government level. It becomes extremely important for the ANC, and hence the Lekgotla took a very firm posture, appreciating the position and the role of the ANC in this sphere of government, what I could call in the theater of local government, with regard to matters of policy, matters of legislation, the role that the ANC plays and play in society, and generally the extent to which it will have to work very closely with many social formations for social progress. The African National Congress believe very strongly that for us to attain social capital, the extent to which that would have to characterize social progress, but most importantly, how we change the living conditions of our people. We believe that capable and as well as experienced cadres of the movement who would appreciate the centrality of organizing continuously a broad fronts at the municipal level, a fronts that will basically look at both formal and as well as non-budget resource mobilization for actual intensification of the work to be done at the local government level. These processes requires the ANC that is very much renewed in its approach and appreciation of the role of municipal government. The Lekgotla, in its discussions and decisions at the end, the ANC was very much certain that out of the experiences that we have learned recently, for instance, of what the Secretary General has just referred to as our intervention in eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality, where a senior cadre of the movement was deployed, it actually beckons on the ANC to make sure that With greater social conscience and ingenuity, we must consider going forward deployment of very senior, if not capable, cadres of the movement, because this level or sphere of government, it is extremely important, if not very central. We have learned out of the 29th May 2024 national elections that if society and communities are not very happy about performance of our government and greatly at the municipal level, we stand to basically receive very reduced electoral fortunes on net as a consequence of our inability, precisely because of some weaknesses in the system that Lekgotla was able to analyze and assess and take a very strong point. Out of these issues, I fully concur with the question that was posed here, that the ANC believes very strongly that what we have learned out of eThekwini Metro, we're basically already in discussions with comrades and colleagues in Mangaung municipality. We've already had discussions and very clear attention to Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, and of course other metropolitan municipalities. We've already agreed with the President that early March we will be here in Johannesburg to interact with the provincial government, including the city of Johannesburg. Thereafter, we will engage with the city of Tshwane. Understandably, the firm view that we have taken is that all our metros, including secondary cities in this country, including the extended to some districts, which constitute very serious economic characteristics of economic development and therefore injection going into the future. All those areas remains and continues to be engines of our economic development. And therefore the state and the conditions of our municipalities and the extent to which the political systems, the political leadership that will have to reinforce the administrative capacities but largely bring closer active civil participation of our communities remains uppermost in the work of the African National Congress. So oppose this Lekgotla, as we'll be going into cabinet, as deployees of the ANC, understandably, we'll have to make sure that through robust engagements and discussions, we find the ways and means on how this renewed vigor and thinking, like I said, with greater social conscience, which obviously even other parties that are part of the government of national unity would appreciate and understand the need for a very effective, if not efficient, local government system, because that in itself will make the citizens of this country much happy. As I conclude, these matters necessitated the ANC's different approach in terms of discussions and posture, precisely because half of the population in this country resides in 17 municipalities. You can imagine if we can be in a better position to impact those municipalities greatly on matters of leadership, on matters of governance, stabilization of our politics, the business enterprise, how we're going to be undertaking provision of services. Almost overnight, half of the population will be very much certain and happy about the conditions under which they find themselves in. And therefore, the ANC remains unapologetic in its renewed vigor and approach on how do we position leadership, because leadership plays a very important role. You can see in eThekwini, we only changed one office of the mayor with what has been existing there, both at the political level, including even administratively. But the impact of that individual working together with the rest of the comrades and colleagues that he found on site, they have fundamentally changed the complexion and the complexities of that situation on the right direction. It's a new philosophical basis and understanding that will drive our transformation and therefore repositioning of our municipal government going forward in this country. We want to assure South Africans that local government of tomorrow would not necessarily be the same as what might have happened in the previous few years. We have learned lessons. We fully understand and appreciate all those negativities and basically disappointments that might have happened. And where we are at the moment, as we move into the future, we are actually occasioned for greater performance and effective delivery of services, informed and guided by much-needed political leadership that will find its resonance on how it translates into the efficacy of the social systems of the administration. Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. On the question about the Expropriation Act and the possibility of the DA leaving the Government of National Unity, I mean, the Expropriation Act was passed by Parliament before the elections, during the sixth administration. The President had to go, as with all laws, through the process of looking at the constitutionality of the Expropriation Act. It was found to be constitutional and the President signed it. And that's the case with a number of other pieces of legislation that were passed by Parliament before, but just had to be signed by the President. One of the issues about the statement of intent that forms the foundation of the Government of National Unity is its foundational principles. And one of the foundational principles is the rule of law, that we must respect the Constitution and we must respect the rule of law. The President can't, after Parliament pass a law, unless it's unconstitutional, can't then say that he's not going to sign the law or that he's going to negotiate about, different aspects of it because somebody feels that they're not happy with it. It's been passed by Parliament, and this is the approach that's been followed. Like with the Bella Act, there's a lot of disinformation that's going around the Expropriation Act, and I think that as the media, we should, together with government and political parties, educate people about what the Expropriation Act is about. It's mainly aimed at looking at how do we accelerate land reform. And we know that there are three aspects of land reform: land tenure, land claims, and then land redistribution. We tried to amend Section 25 as per our conference resolution. We didn't manage to get a two-thirds to do that, and the Expropriation Act is therefore the next step to be able to ensure that we accelerate these three parts of land reform. There was an Expropriation Act of 1975, in addition to what they had in 1913 and 1936, and the Group Areas Act, to be able to remove people from their land. The Expropriation Act is to provide the legal framework of how government can ensure that it address issues of land tenure better, learning from the experience of the last 30 years, but also look at how do we free up land for housing, how do we free up land for agriculture, particularly small-scale agriculture, and in a real sense address the historical injustice which our Constitution enables us to do, and in fact see it as part of the foundation. This thing about leaving the Government of National Unity is a bit like, the little boy crying wolf. And I think that by the time that you really implement and there's really a wolf, you may find that nobody is listening because you've cried wolf so many times. That's all I'll say about that. A general point about South African peacekeeping, if you can recall in 1994, the approach that we followed towards the African continent and the African agenda and peacekeeping in the continent was that the continent for a very long time have been focused on the struggle against apartheid in South Africa and Namibia. We were the last to get free in 1994. Which means that with the apartheid issue resolved, it provided an opportunity to look at the serious conflicts that were going on there in the continent at the time. If you can remember Sudan, that was one of the early issues that South Africa got involved in. But over the 30 years, we've been involved in Burundi. After President Nyerere from Tanzania asked President Mandela to take over from him, we were part of the Burundi peace process. We've been part of the process in the DRC. It's not the first time. We've been involved in the DRC since before 1996. Libya is another example. Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa had to play a role. And not just in the African continent. I mean, we've been asked to assist in Northern Ireland, Sri Lanka, East Timor, what is the other place now? Of course, Palestine, that we are involved in an ongoing basis. So the role of South Africa in peace talks and peace missions is based on a document that this year we will be celebrating 70 years, where we said that there shall be peace and friendship. And that's what South African foreign policy is about, that where, as part of the international community of nations, we participate in peacekeeping missions. Secondly, we understand that South Africa can't isolate itself from the rest of the continent, because it expresses itself, if there's a problem in Mozambique, it expresses itself in migration to Mozambique from DRC and other parts of the continent. So there's a link, and your question about what it means for the 62 million South Africans, it means that we have to look at peace and security in a broader regional context in order to make sure that we have peace and security, and we can address the push factor that force people to leave their countries because of instabilities and problems. So that's really the context of our peacekeeping, and our mission in the DRC, together with MONUSCO as well as the SADC mission, is part of that continuity of a policy that started since 1994. What will our inputs be in the Lekgotla? I think the lady from SABC question. The government Lekgotla will look at both what should go into the 2025-2026 program of government, but also to adopt the medium-term development plan for the 7th administration. And that is why the statement that the Secretary-General read dealt with nearly every aspect of governance and the priorities that will go into the medium-term development plan, from what we will do about crime and GBV to education, health, to the economy, and particular focus on industrialization, investment over the coming 5 years in infrastructure, as well as issues with regards to water, energy security, as well as international relations. So our input to the Lekgotla outcomes is really what our deployees will be taking to the government Lekgotla, and that is based on the 3 priorities which the President last year in the opening of Parliament set for the 7th administration, which is inclusive economic growth and jobs. It is addressing the costs of living and tackling poverty. And then, of course, the third one is to build a capable developmental and ethical state. So that is our input into the government Lekgotla. And the fact that we once again met together with our alliance partners, as the SGC said, is part of making sure that we have unity of purpose. And those ANC members that, from the President to the ministers to our premiers, that are part of the Government of National Unity and leading provincial governments, that is the mandate that they have to take into the Cabinet Lekgotla, but also the provincial Lekgotla that will follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sanzo?
Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi, and to everybody here and the SG. Number one, on crime intelligence, the Ministry of Police regards crime intelligence as one of the key components in policing, not only in South Africa, everywhere else. And we take that component very seriously, to a point where it has been identified as one of the priorities, together with technology in policing, outstanding dockets in the detective section, and forensics, because they are key enablers in improving policing and making sure that we have impact that is desired. Now, our areas of focus include murder, the murder rate, which we want to reduce, rape, drugs, proliferation of firearms, both legal and illegal. If we are to achieve any progress or make any progress on this, we need these enablers to assist us to get the organization to a better position. And that's why they've been identified as priorities. Now, we've had several discussions, of course, not only on crime intelligence, but on all these areas. And on crime intelligence specifically, we have had quite a number of discussions, and they are ongoing within the ministry. And these discussions that we are having on an ongoing basis, but also with the National Commissioner, are time-bound. In other words, we are not holding them forever and ever. They are time-bound, and at some point, at a time when we are ready, we will give clear directions in terms of what is necessary so that there are changes, so that there are improvements, and also including how crime intelligence needs to be positioned such that through it we get the objectives that it exists for. So we're looking at the matter and we regard it as seriously. Do we have concerns? Yes, we have concerns. There are a number of areas that have been identified for that in our discussions, and these are ongoing, as I've said. PC, KZN, well, we're aware of allegations against the PC of KZN that are circulating in social media. We've had a chat with the National Commissioner on this, and National Commissioner will be addressing the media before the end of the week on this and other matters that he will regard as relevant for that particular media briefing. But negative allegations against someone that come in that particular form when you're not in a position to defend yourself other than coming after and reacting after, especially if they are serious, and especially if they are sent to somebody very high in the police echelons, being provincial commissioner, are unfortunate. They are unfortunate in the sense that we need to avoid harming somebody without due regard and without relevance, who has such a huge responsibility in the community. And therefore, it's all unfortunate that these allegations have come in the form that they have, and they will be addressed even though they've already, they will be addressed properly, even though they're out there without being channeled properly, as we would have loved, that they be channeled properly with evidence and all of that. But of course, we will react to the process in due course. What are my relations or ministry's relations between with the provincial commissioner? These relations are prescribed in law. He reports to the national commissioner, all of them nationally. But practically, it's unavoidable that from time to time ministry will talk to commissioners at a provincial level. At that level, it's normal, or from KZN, we spend no less than 3 days there. We're talking and getting briefings that are necessary. So working relations are normal, and we continue to do so. And the last part is working relations with the National Commissioner. We have normal relations with the National Commissioner, and which I regard as good. But working relations, if they are working relations, it would mean that there would be a part that would concern me as minister and as together with ministry, and on the other hand, National Commissioner will have his own concerns. We will meet. Do we meet? We meet frequently. We talk frequently. We phone each other. Even today, I did call him on some matter. So those relations, he is matured enough, I am matured enough, that we should maintain healthy, very healthy working relations, which doesn't mean that when there are issues that need to be discussed, we avoid that. It won't happen like that. We'll discuss matters as and when they arise and need to be discussed, whatever issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
National Commission somewhere.
Thank you very much, SG and colleagues and members of the media. Yes, indeed, the world is baffled about what has happened, about the announcements. We have been fighting the scourge of HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria together for more than 20 years as a global community, and depending very much also on global funding. But on the South African side, as you know, we are running the world's biggest HIV counseling and testing campaign. At 5.5 million people are on ARVs. No other country comes anywhere near that. The total amount spent in this campaign is 44.4 billion rand. And PEPFAR contributes 17% of it. The rest is mostly our own fiscals and some other funders, like Global Fund. Now, where are we going to be affected? PEPFAR has got a presence and is helping us in 27 districts out of the 52 districts of South Africa. These are the 27 most affected districts in the country. And so the district that will be affected will be 5 in the Eastern Cape, 2 in the Free State, 4 in Gauteng, 7 in KwaZulu-Natal. You'll understand why, because KwaZulu-Natal is the most affected province. 2 in Limpopo, 3 in Mpumalanga, 3 in Northwest, and the Cape Metro in the Western Cape. Now, I got late here, SG, because we're still having meetings about this to try and compile to find out exactly how much is the weight of the problem on our shoulders. We had arranged a meeting with the Minister of Finance, which was scheduled for 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, it was postponed. But I must also add, most of the people who are funded from PEPFAR are the ones who told us that they've been written letters to stop because of the review. We as a government, whether DERCO, we checked with them, or health, or treasury, where the money is going, we have not as yet received any letter whatsoever. We hear from the clinics, especially vets, where most of the clinics are run under vets. So that's where we are. We will compile and finalize the matter. We'll meet with Treasury. So the information I'm giving you is a stopgap information in the meantime. Thank you very much. Okay, no, holding information. Not
I think Minister Mtsoaledi, Comrade Mtsoaledi, have clarified Gareth Cliff this afternoon, because he was one of the people who were making sweeping statements about this aid and support we get globally, as though South Africa from its fiscus was not contributing to the program in the fight against HIV and AIDS in our country. As Yanda, in terms of the Defence Force briefing, it is important, and there have been statements that have been issued. Of course, they are briefing at the right time, because Defence Force doesn't work like anybody. They need time to ascertain the facts and look at their situation and thereafter brief. There are people who passed on, and they need to inform families. There are protocols there, and so on, that they need to follow. But We knew that the briefing was going to come, and probably at a given point in time there will be also the voice of the President. But the Minister tomorrow have assured us that he will deal with the details, which I think the media can look forward to that. The problem with South Africa is that people like to jump for things that they don't understand and speak out of turn. Justifiably so, because we are a vibrant constitutional democracy. Things like, is the army equipped? How did it happen that 9 soldiers were killed? Those are the questions the army must deal with. Something went viral that we've got no ammo, we've got no food. It was posted. All of those things must be addressed properly within the sensitivities of the army. But first and foremost, we need to understand that we didn't send our soldiers to war. We sent them to maintain peace. So if we send them to war, you will see grip in them. So if people attack us, we will go this direction of Pretoria in the afternoon. In 30 seconds, everything will have. So there are terms in terms of peace mission that our countries agree to. And those terms include the fact that what armament are you giving in and all of that. And so that those are the things that need to be looked at in relation to the peace mission. So countries are guided in this regard about that. So I'm happy that you asked a question and you left, so it's fine. But I'm available, I can tell you that, so that we can clarify you later. Maybe you are chasing a story, that's fine. But nonetheless, just to finalize the point is that there are protocols that govern peacekeeping missions and countries in terms of their contribution. South Africa didn't go to Eastern DRC to fight a war. They went there as a peacekeeping mission. And we'll talk about that. In terms of that peacekeeping mission, the deployment was guided by SADC, Southern African Mission, in the DRC, in accordance with the principle of collective self-defense and collective action outlined in the SADC Mutual Defense Pact of 2003. And that has happened. That has happened in Delgado, in Mozambique. In fact, we are still there, in Mozambique. And we are acting there with Rwanda and others to avert that situation. Our soldiers are there. And I'm not sure whether they are back, but they are in Capo Delgado as part of this collective defense pact of 2003 of SADC. So it didn't start now because there are casualties. And the ministry will explain what happened. We were informed, Parliament was informed, and under MONUSCO and Summit DRC, SADC, as well as the AU and the United Nations, this mission was established together with elements of the Congolese army and in the creation of what is called FARDC in Eastern DRC. And our army was part and parcel of that. So we didn't live here with all our artillery to go to war. We went there to maintain peace and join others. And in the process of that, when we're faced with challenges and we get to be attacked, and probably, I don't know, we become a collateral in the conflict, it's a question that we need to address. And this is exactly the point that President Ramaphosa is addressing with the heads of state. Because if we take everything stock and barrel and go to war, in the DRC, the question will be relevant. For what? For what? We've got, I was in the Eastern DRC in Goma, which has now been captured by M23. And I met those soldiers there. They had Roy Falk and everything and so on. In that, as part of that particular mission. But we are not there to war. We are there to maintain peace. And all the risks must be looked at. We went to Bangui, Central African Republic. Our soldiers died there. Zuma was the president. And then I see Mojo Mtau, he was the general of the intelligence in the army. He knows these missions are executed in what? And he says, no, we must go to war. War with who? It's wrong, that assertion. War with who? Stock and barrel, army, everything, carry the artillery, Gripen in the air, Roy Falk, to fight who? We went there to join armies, Southern Africa, Tanzania, and Malawi, to maintain peace in Eastern DRC. M23, to repel them. Now, we must have a workshop, if we forgot, about what is this M23 and why we came to this resolution in the AU and everything else. There are business people in South Africa, it's true, who are doing business in Congo, mining and all of that. South Africa, under Thabo Mbeki, as our president, we were here at Luthuli House, working with the Congolese at Shell House to establish government in Congo. There was no government there. Kabila, his father came, and then his son came. We established government. We went to, what is this place? No, we went to Sun City with them to establish government under Kabila. Administration after administration, they've been faced with challenges. And the Great Lakes region, we have been faced with these particular challenges over time, including Rwanda, Uganda, Congo, DRC, and so on. So we have been dealing with this issue in South Africa. And we have had South African business people, black and white, going to Congo for businesses and all of that. It did not need our army to go and protect their interest. We have been in the Eastern DRC for a specific purpose, ethnic cleansing and all of those things that happened. If you remember what happened in Rwanda, and the world was watching, our foreign policy has made a commitment in terms of the African continent that we will work for peace in the context of the institutions, democratic institutions like the African Union and SADC. We will not act on our own. The fact that we have now realized casualties in the DRC, Eastern DRC, it's unfortunate that our soldiers died there, but they are brave. They are brave and they must be celebrated because they died on duty for Pan-Africanist cause that this government have actually embraced. They didn't die there because they were protecting minerals of somebody. Our people must not be misled. They went there for peace, and that is what it is all about, and it must be understood. So, we have taken this decision for a collective action outlined in the SADC Mutual Defense Pact of 2003. So, South Africa does not act alone in that particular regard. We act with others. This mission was deployed 15 December 2003 to support the government of the DRC. 15 December 2003 December, this mission was executed in Eastern DRC by the South African government. And that's what has actually happened there. Now, coming to the DA and what the DA lament about the GNU, I don't know what is the lamentation now. What the DA basically want, because As the ANC, we have committed to engage with partners going forward in terms of the GNU, and I will do that this week and the coming weeks to engage with everybody and talk about the GNU and what are their concerns. Talking via the press won't help. We have explained our position. Transformation is our agenda. And we need to understand that we did not have an agreement that all the bills that were passed by the sixth administration will come to a halt in our negotiations. We don't have such agreement. And as the ANC, if such a matter arose, we will be very clear with the DA that we don't agree. We cannot now use GNU for bills that have been passed in Parliament to halt progress. We can't. And if that then constituted a deal breaker, it should have happened then. You know, you don't operate like a street fighter. I'll get them that side. No, it doesn't work like that. You play your cards open. No, we are in, we'll find them. We'll find a way. No, it doesn't. That's why you've got to be honest with people you negotiate with. I can't go to some political party and promise them. They are just going to think that, no, this Mbalula is just a trickster. You know, he's a trickster, he's a tsotsi. He said this, now he's changing. When you negotiate, because this is about people's interest. We know DA, the interest that they represent, so we can't be untruthful to them. When we talk to them, when we're in the negotiations, when we're talking to them and say to them, no, we agree with you, with the belief that, no, we've got a way to get to them. No, it doesn't work like that. You become straight. If in the negotiations and the discussions it was clear to us that bills that have been passed by the sixth administration must be negotiated afresh, we wouldn't have agreed to that. And there is no such an agreement. So it brings me to the point that I wish to relate to that they talk about in terms of clause 19. That legally clause 19 of the statement of the intent will only apply to bills that are proposed, drafted by ministers or DMs. You know, that these are bills that will have to be approved by cabinet prior and so on. I mean, that's the process. You see, because in terms of the bills, you start first at cabinet, it gets to be discussed, the cabinet gives a green light, it goes. So the value chain in terms of how a bill is done, it is understood by all of us. So if today there is a proposed bill come through Dean McPherson, it will go through that process, and then it will go through the clearinghouse if there is no finding each other. But these bills are not new. They went into those ministries, knowing very well that expropriation bill has been passed, and it's just waiting the signature. I was talking about the National Land Transport Act, e-hailing. It was sent back to Parliament. It's going to come back. President probably signed. But the president, before he signs, he follows the Constitution. So he can't sign something that is unconstitutional. If the DA and their partners, they believe what the president has signed is unconstitutional, then they have got an avenue to go to court to challenge that particular bill. But now it's an act, it must be implemented. I don't think that is the issue that they don't understand. The issue is fundamentally what they disagreed about right from parliamentary point of view. I think others are just confused because they don't understand Expropriation Act, what it means. Because before it, there was what was there in 1975. And that is what we are responding to. So it does not address what could not pass in terms of Section 25 in Parliament. So we need to take one another step by step to understand where we are. Neither are we saying that the land question is finally addressed in the country with this bill. So what does this bill enable us to do? And this is the point that we need to understand, that, and as I conclude my point, that the Expropriation Act expands the scope to include public interests, such as land reform and promoting equitable access to natural resources, alongside public purposes. So the Expropriation Act introduces, again, the possibility of nil compensation in specific circumstances such as abandoned land, land acquired for speculative purposes, land posing risks to health or safety, land used for public interest without productive use. You know, you've got people here who own buildings and own land. They don't stay in this country. Nobody knows where they are. We are going to expropriate in terms of this act. Sizukulinda. Sibe silinde into esingayaziyo engabambekiyo. Sithatha umhlaba lo uzawubona nangu umthetho. But it will also be guided by judicial intervention. So it's not like land grab. And we can't just be living here with land, looking at it, and then we can't do anything to it. It's a health hazard zone. We can't do anything about it. This bill empowers us to do. Now, there is a bigger agenda in terms of land program that we are implementing, and that requires numbers and working together going forward. But this is a step in the right direction, and we managed to pass this in Parliament. So we must not confuse issues to meaning that we are misleading South Africans to say that everything and anything about land is now addressed. And I think Phoebe spoke about the policy context in terms of this. I think we have answered all your questions. What the Lekgotla will address is what is in this statement. We're not starting afresh. We're not inventing policy. We are simply saying that this year, what is it that we need to do? And that will find expression in the President's State of the Nation address, but equally, going into the new financial year and in June, planning for implementation. So that is what in government, that is what we're basically focusing on. So in conclusion, that is the point. Mamluko have covered me in terms of SOEs. We have not postponed SOEs, and if we don't discuss its privatization, no. That discussion is not postponed. We are consistent with what the manifesto said, what we must do, and we have explained now what is it that we need to do in government going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SG. I did have a litany of questions, SG. I know that we're running out of time, but may I, excuse me, indulge our colleagues who've made time to be here. I want to start with this is the last round, colleagues. I'm going to start with some of the questions, but maybe in the meantime, you can go ahead, Lunga.
Thank you very much. My name is Lunga Zama from the Mail and Guardian. SG, I just want to ask if maybe you have seen the news that former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Tutuzile, is going to appear in court for the alleged incitement of the July unrest. Do you know anything about that, and what does the ANC stand on that? And Minister of Police, maybe you can assist us and maybe tell us to say what has she been charged with, if we are indeed aware of those charges. And my second question goes to the Minister of Justice. Minister, they've said, the DA has said that it will challenge this bill in court. as government, they're saying it's unconstitutional. There's some part of it that's unconstitutional. As the ministry, do you know which part maybe there's unconstitutionality about the bill? And will you be opposing the DA's challenge in court if indeed they do go to court? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Network 24. Question goes to Dr. Motsoaledi, Comrade Motsoaledi. The DA said today they are opposed to the NHI and would go so far as not to support the budget if the NHI is part of the budget. They say there's no money for the NHI and it will collapse the health system. So some reaction there is being sought from Comrade Motsoaledi. I am looking for a hand that is following up.
Thank you very much, Khawelo Magolego from UFM. SG, I appreciate you saying that this Rwanda issue, this DRC issue is the terrain of the SANTF, but in light of the negative reporting, unconfirmed most of it, surely as a governing party you would be concerned. Does it mean that because this is a UN thing, now South Africa is sitting back and not giving them anything? Because there's now even the latest, I think they are saying that the 9 people who died much earlier, that their bodies are actually decomposing because of a lack of refrigeration facilities there. And regarding the specific involvement of Rwanda, I think Rwanda is forthright about their involvement. They even said that the current president of DRC was never actually elected, and that is why they are trying to get rid of him. Does it assist for the ANC to continue being diplomatic when the situation is like this? Because it's like we are being slaughtered by Rwanda, essentially what is happening now. And finally, but tied to this one, this happens at a time where there's some NGOs here within South Africa that are alleging that this rent mall Denel consortium that makes weapons, that it's been shipping of weapons, and they are suspected of even sending weapons to Ukraine and Israel. So it's surprising that weapons made in South Africa are suspected to reach as far as Ukraine in a war, while our own are right here inside the DRC not having a gear. Thank you. Just your comment on that.
Thank you very much. Another quick one, Tebu Mukobo with SABC News. On the DRC, our government has been warned that our soldiers deployed on peacekeeping missions are not well funded. And 12 years ago, Ruth Mayer advised that we either capacitate them or withdraw them, because if we continue having unfunded soldiers on such risky and difficult missions, the worst is bound to happen, where we lose them in such attacks. Why are we risking the lives of these men and women, and for what reason, really? I suspect it's been responded to. Secondly, on corruption, especially at Home Affairs, where officials sell our IDs, passport, and facilitating fake marriages to some foreigners. We have seen them being arrested, but their conduct continues unabated. I want to go straight to the question. Don't you think that treating this like treason, that should be treated as treason, where you come up with harsher sentences from 25 years and taking all the benefits like pensions will be a deterrent, as opposed to just a few years in jail and soon they're out to continue with their criminal activities with those who are still left in the system. Final question to the ANC here is, I'd like to know if the NWC is postponed because the President is attending to the DRC question. So those will be responded to. Can I take your Sunday World over there? It's postponement and the reason for the postponement, whether it is the DRC matter.
Yes, on that question. But my follow-up questions, SG, generally on the issue, okay, I'm adding on the US aid because it was narrowed, I'm broadening it. Has the ANC discussed the political developments in the United States with the election of Donald Trump, who is showing not only with this that the cutting of US aid, but generally he's showing an aggression, if I were to summarize it, on a multipolar world, which is what the ANC has been about. Because I mean, you would remember now two genders, cutting off who, cutting off on these climate deal changes. In fact, with the direction that our administration here in the country is going, Trump is the exact opposite of everything that we're trying to do, which does show that at some point we will have a bit of misunderstanding with America. I would have thought that that administration, the outcome of the American election, in terms of its policy framework that now is public information, would have been one of the central discussion points by the Lekgotla, well, which should also be discussed at the cabinet Lekgotla going forward. And then another point of interest, SG, the SACP has been very hostile towards the ANC on a specific issue of the GNU. I'm interested to hear what was their input or contributions at the Lekgotla, were they in alignment with their anti-GNU posture, or have they come down a bit? Was it positive or negative, or just mild, or they just withdrew? What sort of contribution did the SACP make in light of their anti-GNU stance? Finally, on non-Lekgotla issues, Minister Kenzani, there is a whole big issue that is going on in your ministry, the justice. The conflict between NDPP Batoi and director in Gauteng, DPP in Gauteng, Andrew Chabuke, is looking like a very unhealthy situation. And I remember one of the things that President Ramaphosa has been steadfast about is sorting out the NPA. It does look very clumsy when a DPP of a province is fighting with the NDPP, and there's even allegations you didn't charge that politician, you didn't charge that politician. What are you doing about it to resolve that situation once and for all? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The very final question to the SG, and the last question for this presser, the request for a reaction on the interview by Janus Swallows, the killer of Comrade Chris Hani, SG. I will then turn to Comrade Motsoaledi. I hope you can also tackle questions related to Home Affairs. The immigration issues. Okay, if you could start, and then I will come to Comrade Kensani. So you didn't catch it. So Comrade Fidi will take it. It's fine. You can just answer the other one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You know, this story of NHI is really puzzling me. I want to remind you, even though you were all there, of the statement made by the President when he opened Parliament, this very GNU Parliament, on the 18th of July, 2024, and I'm quoting, open quotes, an important task of the next 5 years is to ensure that we reduce the high cost of living through ensuring that everyone in South Africa has equal access to equitable, accessible, and affordable quality health care. Goes on to say, as we implement the National Health Insurance, we will focus on strengthening healthcare infrastructure, improving training of healthcare personnel, and using technology to improve healthcare management. I won't read the rest, but this is what the President said. I don't remember anybody, including the DA, objecting to these statements. Now, when we implement this statement, then they start and say it's foul play or something like that. On this issue of strengthening healthcare infrastructure, we have been in discussions with Treasury, and we are expecting something to be said about the budget of improving healthcare infrastructure. Every day we are being attacked of public healthcare infrastructure not being strong, private being strong with all equipment, which is true. And I said many times, it's because they are getting a lot of funding from PIC. So we have been sitting with Treasury. Even last year we sat with them to discuss why is it not possible for us to get money from PIC to massively improve healthcare infrastructure and equipment. And we are insisting that that must happen. We even had a meeting 2 weeks ago with the President and the Minister of Finance to discuss this issue. Public healthcare also needs good healthcare infrastructure. And we will be very disappointed, frankly speaking, if when the budget is read, nothing is said absolutely about this thing. But money keeps on going to private healthcare sector. The second area which the President said, improving training of healthcare personnel and using technology to improve healthcare management. We can't retract. This technology is already there. It has to be budgeted for. We have already started. This we mentioned 10 years ago, not now, that we need what we call one healthcare technology for both public and private, so that maybe I must explain what it means. At the present moment in South Africa, when you go to see a health worker, whether in a clinic, whether in a public hospital, whether in a private, whether a specialist, you can do so and see 10 of them without them knowing. Meaning you can move to a private hospital today, they give you medication and do investigation. Tomorrow you can go to a public hospital and start afresh and get the same thing. The other day you go to a GP. You can do that today in South Africa, and it has been a problem. And so we said we need healthcare technology. Now, in the past, that healthcare technology was provided by IT companies as a form of a tender, and it was causing us problem. We then said we need our own homemade, and we went to CSIR. CSIR took 8 years to come up with this type of health information system. Now we've got it. And we said we want it in preparation for NHI. We have got it. We piloted it in the Tlhabeng, in the Free State. We even piloted it with GPs who are in private practice so that they also can have it. It's interoperable. We are now rolling it out. It needs a budget. And anybody who says no, there's going to be no, they don't want to support any budget and all that. They want us to actually stop running the healthcare system. The last, which maybe they may call NHI, we did not ask, and I must explain this, we did not ask for any other budget for NHI because we are not yet at the level of implementing on the budget side. Where we are in the MTDP is to establish structures, the boards that are wanted, the committees that are wanted. That's what we'll be doing. Because at the moment, we have just finalized the regulations. I understand that Steenhuisen complained that, no, this minister is talking about regulations. Of course, we finalized them. And we did not do it unilaterally. In health, we've got a statutory structure, which is called NHC. Other government departments, they've got something called a MINMEC, which we know about. There's no MINMEC in health. We've got an NHC because it's statutory. Other MINMECs are just coordinating bodies. Ours is statutory, is recognized by law, National Health Act 2003, and there's a reason. Other MINMECs have got only the two spheres of government, mostly national and provincial. In health, it's all spheres. It's the minister who's chairing, all the MECs sit there. The Surgeon General of South African Military Health Services has got a seat there, and SALGA, precisely because some metros run their own clinics. When that structure sits, it's called National Health Council, and it's statutory power recognized by the courts. There are situations where we lost cases in court because the court will say you did not go to the NHC. So we developed regulations on NHI On the 29th of November, we went to that NHC. We presented all of it, the regulations, and they are all about governance and structures. And the NHC passed them. The only reason that we did not gazette them and take them out to the public is because of the issues of translation, because the laws force us that you can't just publish regulations or laws in English, you need to translate. When we finish, we're going to gazette them, and members of the public will participate on them. And we don't see that there's anything wrong with that. The last issue, which will appear on the budget under NHI, is that when health wanted to hire staff to start establishing and working on NHI under a DDG who was already there of NHI, Solidarity went to court to stop that. They said it's premature, and the court dismissed it. And 44 people were hired under that name of NHI, and those 44 people need to be paid, and it will appear on the budget. And it has been there before. If they now stop it now, I don't know exactly what it means. But we actually emphasize that NHI is not an event. It's going to be a process bit by bit. And we will, the reason that we have got nothing on the budget about plans, about project, we will cost that which we are ready to implement. And I can as well inform you, because it's not a secret, we are working on it. The first program under NHI, which we are going to implement, is that this government took a decision, and everybody supported it, that grade R need to be compulsory. Now, during some years, we did pilots, and we found that there are kids who go to school, who sit there, and they can't see very well. They are not even aware of it. The teachers are not aware. They can't hear very well. They've got oral hygiene problems. We have got statistics that show, and we took a decision that as from this year, utilizing the concept of NHI, we're going to make sure that each child that goes to school gets screened. Eyesight, hearing, oral hygiene, TB. We've got their base because we want to give them a chance in life. Because we have got children of the rich, of people with medical aids, who are tested for these things. What about children of the poor? When are you going to give them a chance in life? That project will finalize it, put the amounts, and say this is how much it will cost. Then we'll go to Treasury and ask them. We have not yet done so. And I've already told the Minister of Basic Education, who is a DA minister, about this project, and she said she'll support it. I don't know whether she told Madam about that or what. But I told her that, Minister, we want to help you. Your kids are going to go to school, you are going to spend money. Many of them can't see. We need to know who can see and correct it. And you can't do so for families who are not on medical aids, who are very poor. They need to be covered by NHI. The second program after that, which we will cost and establish, and we'll be able to cost it because we know there are 1,200,000 women who fall pregnant every year. And we are busy planning it. What are they entitled to? And this is what I can tell you. We want every pregnant woman, regardless of their socio-economic status, to see a doctor, a GP, at least 4 times during the course of that pregnancy. There must be a doctor they visit. We also want them to visit a specialist at least 2 times. But as to the number of times, we'll be told by experts. There are a lot of experts in that field. We also want each and every pregnant woman to have an ultrasound scan. They will tell us whether it's 2 times or not, or so that we know that this baby is normal. We're not going to promote wrong things like rushing to a doctor to pay a lot of money on medical aids to see the sex of the child. How does that help? Just to come and say it's a boy or a girl. How does that help in survival? We want to know, is this baby normal? What is the size of the head? What is the age? Are the organs normal? So as to avoid also medico-legal. That is what we want to do, and that one will cost without apologizing to anybody, because all women of the country prefer that. The women who are on medical aids are receiving this thing. And how many of them? With all the money I've mentioned, 140,000. Only 140,000 out of 1.2 million women receive this type of treatment where they go to specialists, they are scanned and all that. What about the 1,060,000 women? Don't they belong to South Africa? They surely belong. And we are not going to make sure that it's one of the most important programs of NHI because people don't understand what NHI is all about. So we are moving on. If the judges come and tell us that you are wrong, then because we are a law-abiding citizen, we'll be disappointed, but we'll listen. Up to so far, no judge has told us that we are wrong. There are 3 cases in court, one by Solidarity, one by BHF, the Board of Healthcare Funders, and the other by specialists. Today, we hear that HASA has joined. We've been expecting it. HASA is an association of private hospitals. They have joined. We wrote affidavits to the court, and we are waiting. Lastly, last year, Solidarity threatened us that if we don't write affidavits to court, they will go to the judge and force him to hear a case without us. That was in October last year. But we asked the judge to give us a chance, and he understood, he was reasonable, because we said we are still developing affidavit. And we wrote a 216-page affidavit. We submitted it on the 27th of November. The Solidarity, which was in a hurry, when we say we are ready now, here's our affidavit, they went to court and they say they are asking to be given up to the end of February to respond to it. So we're still waiting, it's not us. They didn't respond immediately. Well, last year they wanted to rush to court. They said, no, give us up to the end of February. We're still waiting. And after February, when they respond, we'll be forced to respond back. We'll decide at that time how much we are asking from the court. Now, we can't say NHI must wait for all those processes. We don't know where they will end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the issue of Expropriation Act. I do hope that the Minister for Public Works and Infrastructure understand the constitutional obligations on him, because any citizen can take him to court for refusing to implement an act of the Republic, and we can call for personal costs. There's been actually precedence in that regard. I just thought, let me start there. The issue of expropriation, saying that is unconstitutional, I don't think it's true, because firstly, when you look at the Act, I listened to what they were saying in public. Yes, we'll definitely have to defend the state, should DA decide. But they were basing it on process, which is not even based on how many provinces voted and which ones didn't vote. And they looked at that this province didn't vote, therefore it has more population. So you're almost saying certain provinces are more important than the others, and their voice in the National Council of Provinces is different. So we followed that and we continue to follow. Let me just quote one clause in the Constitution in Section 25, subsection 8. No provision, it's relating to property rights and act, and this extends to land. It says no provision of this section may impede the state from taking legislative and other measures to achieve land, water, and related reform in order to redress the results of past racial discrimination, provided that any departure from the provision of this section is in accordance with the provision of subsection 36(1). So the basis of Expropriation Act is law. So it's the Constitution. So I'm not so sure. We'll see their papers when they serve. We'll analyze and respond. But where I'm sitting, there isn't a basis for that. The second issue around conflict between, or assumed conflict between Advocate Batoy and Advocate Chauke. I'm not aware of any conflict between the two of them. What I know is that it's a letter that is written by Advocate Chauke that raises concern how civil society addressed him in a meeting. Not that Batoy addressed him wrongly. It's civil society, and he felt that as my boss, you should have reacted. It's like you insulting me here, and then Comrade Balula doesn't pick up. And then tomorrow I say, but Comrade Balula, you should have defended me against Mawande. It's that nature. So there isn't any conflict in my portfolio. Thank you.
Sorry, just about the online question about immigration and marriage, whether we should have stronger law for it. Under the previous Minister of Home Affairs, the white paper on immigration, citizenship and refugees are before Parliament at the moment. And what the real objective of this white paper is, and it will be followed by a law, is to ensure that we integrate our those three aspects of our approach towards citizenship. Because at the moment they tend to be in different pieces of legislation, and the white paper and the law will bring them together. And the reason for this is that of course, over the last 30 years, we've had levels of immigration that we didn't anticipate when the first white paper was, or the legislation on immigration was established in, I think, 1996, 1997, and therefore there was a need for review. It was done under the previous administration, and that resulted into the white paper, and of course the bill that will then go to Parliament once Cabinet approves it. And the reason for integrating the three issues is exactly why the example that the listener was using about marriage. So a South African get married to a foreigner and it's not a real marriage. You just want to give the person citizenship. And this is why you need to integrate your entire approach towards citizenship, towards refugees, as well as towards immigration. And that's really what it's aimed to do. The Parliamentary Committee, Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs from the 11th of February, if I recall correctly, will start public hearings on the white paper, and hopefully the media will play a role to publicize what are the issues so that South Africans can also understand that. Of course, we will do our role as political parties. The ANC has made a submission supporting the process and the need for this review, as well as new integrative legislation. So hopefully that we will have a much tighter system to address this matter going forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the questions. Lunga, we don't comment on people who are okay. I don't think there's anything to comment about in terms of people who get arrested and so on. So there's no comment with regard to that. And I don't think even the minister can comment about it. Ubanji. So that's it. Rwanda, what is central to the fight? I think we've explained. I mean, the question of Rwanda. We're not going to say to you that Rwanda is a problem, whoever is a problem, and so on. We are undertaking a mission of peace, and for what has happened, we defer to government to lead, because we may say things here and mess up things. So we have supported the mission of Eastern DRC, and the tragedy that has befell us in terms of our soldiers is very painful to us. And our government must do everything in its power to ensure the safety of our soldiers. And like I said to you, in terms of issues of weapons, gear, and all of that, we've seen all of that in the public domain. And we've explained to you that the Minister and the Defence Force will have a press conference tomorrow and address all those issues. In terms of, is it true and all of that, that these things that have been raised. Of course, within what is permissible in terms of the mission, our soldiers must be empowered within those limits to be in a position to execute. We went to Bangui, Central Republic. We went there to train people. We didn't go to Bangui to fight. When we arrived there, rebels attacked our soldiers. And we sent the advanced trainers in Bangui and all of that, and they were attacked by rebels, and some of them were killed. So we didn't send them to war. We sent them to go and train others. In the process, they were attacked. So in this particular instance, we are not at war with anyone. We are there in terms of what was agreed in 2003, in terms of the pact. We formed part of nations that contributed to the peace mission in Eastern DRC. Like we are in Cabo Delgado, I repeat once more, in Mozambique, we'll continue to do that. There are 28 missions to date that South Africa has participated in, from President Mandela to President Ramaphosa. And most of those peacekeeping missions have been peaceful and have been successful without any injuries and all of that to our soldiers. It's only now in Bangui that we have seen this. So we really are with the families that have lost their loved ones, and the military people and the defense force must clarify the questions in relation to the rumors that are making rounds in our country, because fake news catch like wildfire. So in no time, what is fake is a reality, only to find that it's not the truth. I've equally seen an account of soldiers in relation to the white flag. But I can't stand here and explain to you. But it's already news that our soldiers have surrendered. They've surrendered, they are running away. They've been in the DRC without food and ammunition and all of that. You see a flag posted by somebody through social media. You don't know the background of that. And then already there is a formulation out of it that our soldiers have surrendered. And the account on the ground from the soldiers and the commanders there is different. So I can't sit here and explain that to you. The Minister of Defense and the commanders and the generals will explain that to the South African media. But our soldiers have been brave, participating in a Pan-African mission to bring about peace. And anyone who seeks to suggest at a political level that this mission has got nothing to do with peace other than interest, that have got nothing to safeguarding peace and all of that, we will be the first to oppose that, because we know what this mission is about. It didn't start today, it started way back in 2003. Successive administrations inherited this up until today. Should there be any agreement to withdraw and all of that, it must be political. It must be agreed. That is why there is troika, there is discussion among leaders. We must not be irresponsible, because we will not be trusted by other nations in the region and in the African continent. What has happened there has actually happened, and we believe that our government must handle that situation and give full account, which they will do. The issue of, did we discuss Donald Trump? We don't discuss Donald Trump, we discuss global politics, international and domestic. And we did discuss, and we know that the world is not a happy family of nations. And the ANC's strategy and tactics guide us at all material times. We are for the global south. And what America says through Donald Trump is being handled by our government in terms of trade relations between the two countries. And our president have led from the front in terms of engagement and so on. From the party, in terms of the ANC, what we stand for, I mean, there's no change and shift to that. To what will the developments of America mean for the world is for us to continuously analyze and react to it appropriately. So that discussion we never miss. It is ever present in our meetings all the time when we analyze the global and the domestic situation. SACP contribution was very constructive, and things are where they are now. We will engage with the party going forward, but the party didn't say we must stop. It cautioned us in relation to the GNU and made their views very clear, and we are moving forward, and that's what is important. What do you want me to say about this killer Charles Walus? I mean, we were correct from the onset to oppose his release, and he has shown the world, and he has shown everybody. Remember, we went to court and were defeated in South Africa. Communist Party, our government, went to court to oppose the release of this man. Now he goes there, he says he will repeat it even tomorrow. We are vindicated. This is a killer, callous killer. Janus Walus. And no remorse, nothing. And we were right that he must not be released. He must stay there in jail and all of that. He went to the TRC, said nothing, and so on. So I know what you want me to talk about, and I'm not going to. About a certain person. NWC meeting. The meeting of the NWC is not postponed. Meetings get to be rearranged from time to time. The NWC will meet on Monday and finalize its business. And so on. So that is what will happen. So the president, of course, is dealing with the DRC situation, which we encouraged them to deal with it and give space. We finished the Lekgotla Monday night around 10 o'clock. And Sunday. So we have been working, and there is government Lekgotla, there is DRC, all of those preparations. So we felt that we must give them space. Normally we meet on Mondays, so that Mondays are declared ANC days. So we will meet on Monday to finalize our business that we're supposed even to deal with, because we're going to deal with one item. But we will finalize it on Monday. There's no crisis about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SG. I have to say this was a marathon run. But I'd like to thank you, members of the media, for being here, and also thank my comrades of the National Executive Committee who came to join the SG at this presser. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much.